How's it going? Y'all having fun? Yeah? All right, fantastic. All right, y'all having fun? Everybody having a good time, learning lots of stuff? How about Ray's talk? That was crazy, huh? Wow, that was, I was starting to cry listening to Ray. I really was. All right, thank you so much. All right, great CEOs get paid to think. So I wanted you to raise your hand. If you have put together a plan for your business that is a year or more out, where you have thought through all the steps, where you know what you're doing, how you're doing it, what's going into it, what is the financial benefit or loss from those things. Raise your hand a year out. Raise your hand. Okay. All right, we got three or four people. Fantastic. That's what I thought. And so, like I said, great CEOs are paid to think, a big green button. And so here's my challenge for you guys. I want you to think ahead an entire year on your business, not what's right in front of you, an entire year. And this is, by the way, I think one of the top issues in the DC. I talk to so many people who sit there and they tell me, well, the next campaign I'm doing is this. The next thing I'm doing is this. The next blah I'm doing is this. And I say, okay, well, what's after that? What's the next step? How much is that going to cost you? Where do you go next? If you're going to be a great CEO and you're getting paid to think, one, you got to take some time to think. But two, you actually have to think. And you have to think ahead about what you're doing. So that's my challenge. Think a whole year ahead. And I'm going to teach you how to do that today. But first, real quick, I think pretty much everybody here knows me, so I'm going to skip by this pretty fast. I did private equity stuff. I did other businesses. I failed at a bunch of stuff. I had terrible, terrible times. I mostly learned how to get better most of the time, and some of it worked, and that's what we're going to talk about. All right, if you saw my DCBKK 2022 talk, you heard me talking about this big, giant private equity funded company that I was working on turning around. And it was a gigantic disaster. It was something that they could not get off the books. They were trying so hard to sell this thing for years, and they couldn't do it. And at the end, we managed to sell this thing for 2.5 times revenue, which I was personally very proud of. So I decided to take that same playbook after an extended vacation, that same playbook, and apply it to my little tiny agency. So this is a company that has gone down from $850K in revenue to just under $300K in revenue in 3 years, the 3 years that I was gone from the business. The reason this happened was my fault. I was sales and marketing for this business. And when I left, there was no sales and marketing, and the person I put in charge was not in sales and marketing. She did a great job across the board, except we just lost tons of revenue. So I decided to take those same things, like I said, and apply it here. And I want to show you guys what the results of that were. So just Q1, I want you guys to remember, I had started this in February of this year. In Q1, we put in place a new strategy, new department heads, goals and accountability systems, financial forecast, and sales and marketing systems in place. And in, like 2 months now, we're already, let's see what does it say on the notes, 40K was our sales pipeline before. We're at actually more than 400K now. And in 1 week, we're selling more revenue, generating more revenue than we did in Q3 and Q4 of last year combined in 1 week. And it's looking like it's going to keep on going that way. So this is a real short sample size, but I'm convinced at this point it's going to keep on keeping on. So how we do it? Step one, strategy. Sitting down and really thinking through how to grow this thing. This is actually something I learned from Mr. Tim Conley, who's over here. So there he is, talking about how little tweaks in the business can make massive differences. So we made a couple of little tweaks in the business, which are already having really enormous change, making really enormous changes in the business. Planning and forecasting. You got to hear Ian and Claire and RJ talk about planning and forecasting, FP&A. And we're going to talk about that so much today. I'm so excited to get into this with you guys. So we created a plan. We put together, raised up team members, put in place KPIs and scorecards, and we put together a goals management and accountability system. First off, strategy and brand. I don't have enough time to go deep into this because this is a 2-hour talk in 15 minutes. So I had to make this decision. I had this business that had dropped to 300K. Do I save it? Do I sell it? Do I scrap it? And it was a tough decision. But at the end of the day, I decided to save it. But before I could save it, I had to make sure that the things that we were going to do are actually going to make a difference. So I want to ask you guys, how many people here have called more than 50 potential clients and actually spoken to them about the products and services that you offer? Okay, for all the people here who have not done that, that would be my number one recommendation right out the gate. If you're not talking to your customers, you're doing it wrong. So the first thing that we did, call 60 mid-market SaaS and private equity groups to see if what we thought we were going to sell them was really what they wanted and how they wanted it done. And we learned a ton of stuff right out the gate, that some of the services we thought were fantastic, and some of the services we thought that they were going to love were useless. And more than anything, what they gave to us was, there's some other services that are extremely valuable that we didn't even think about. And if you're not doing that, you need to consider doing that. All right, so just an idea of what the effect of this was. Now, keep in mind, the brand had taken a pretty massive dump while I was gone, but the white one, that was where we were before, and the dark one, that's where we are now. And you can see right out the gate, it's a pretty massive difference. All right, now it's FP&A time. So what do? Financial insight. You guys have heard me talk about this before if you've seen me talk about this in the last couple of years. Financial foresight makes you a realist. It gives you the ability to make decisions based on real numbers. You get to have realistic expectations of growth, see failures before they happen. It gives you the perspective of an investor in your business, because that's what you are, and helps you make a plan that actually works. This is what it should look like. You should have P&L. It looks like a P&L, but it's actually going forward instead of going backwards. So you're going to have a summary, revenues, costs, general hiring plan, sometimes sales, sometimes headcount planner, and then infrastructure costs. This is a super basic version, but this is enough for most of the people in this room. You can have much, much more complex financial forecasts, but this is a great start. And it's going to look something like this. One of the things that I do a little bit different that other people don't do, if you see that little green button at the top says growth, that's the growth plan for JH Media Group, the company I'm working on turning around. And there are 3 different plans. I'll get to them in a second. Well, I'll get to those 3 plans in a second. So the way that we do this, when we're building out the revenue model, is we're going to work on creating an assumptions build. You actually heard RJ talk about this earlier. I was so happy. Where's RJ at? There he is. Heard him talking about this. An assumptions build. How many lead gen method does it take to create some number of SQLs that convert at some percentage that makes sense for your business, and how much is that lead gen method going to cost you? These are some examples of what that might look like on the side. And in your model, it's going to look something like this. So you're going to have a section that's like, this is what it looks like. This is those numbers, and it's going to estimate out what that looks like for the rest of the year. Now you can say like, oh, if I was to change the number of leads I'm going to get from this particular thing, what does that look like? And the value here, let me see if I got it. The value here is it lets you predict the future. The value of a CEO is your ability to predict the future. And if you don't have a feedback mechanism that's helping you predict the future and helping you see, like, I thought it was going to be this, and now it's this. I thought it was going to be this, and now it's this. How are you going to be able to do a better and better and better job? Having a financial forecast helps you predict the future and gives you the feedback mechanism to do that. On top of that, it allows you to incentivize your workforce. So you can see in here, we've got a bonus line right there. This, once again, super, super basic system here, but it gets a point across. There's your percentage. The way that you use that is you got something like this. So our 2024 cases for this company I'm turning around, we've got a potential revenue of $39.5K, $339.5K, $429.7, and $449K. Really important note on this. If you look at the number below that run rate, 445, 816, and 1.2 million. Massive difference, even though the actual numbers on recognized revenue is not quite the same. So base case, just doing the base case, no bonus. Management case, we got a 15K bonus. And on the growth case, we've got a 30K bonus. How do I know I can do this? Because I ran the numbers and I can tell how much money I'm going to have in the bank by the end of the year if we accomplish these goals. And then we're going to actually incentivize it. We're going to build an additional level of incentivization there. So if we hit the revenue mark, 50% of that bonus is released. If we build a sales organization, which takes me out of sales, then we got 30% of that is released. If we build a demand generation system, which takes me out of demand generation, then we've got another 10%. And if we have productivity or production pieces that take me out of production, that's another 10%. I'm incentivizing my team to remove me from the business. Make sense? Everybody got it? All right. Cool. The next thing is building leaders. This may be one of the most important pieces of information you guys get. Great leaders build leaders, not followers. Okay? So what does that look like in the business? When I got this business, I asked the old general manager, please send me the org chart. I want to see how things are set up. And she sent this to me. She said, this is what I got in the business right now. All right, perfect. And I said, that's not what you have in the business. This is what you have in the business. You have these departments, but the problem is you're leading every single department in the entire business. You're there right now, and you have these people underneath. But the reason you're overwhelmed and the reason you can't succeed is because you're doing everything. Who else is in this position? Yeah, I see a lot of hands going up there. I've been in this position multiple times too, so don't feel bad. I think we all have at some point. So when I came in, the first thing I did is raise up leaders. Now, the people that I raised up, the people in the red there, doesn't mean that they're going to be there forever. But when you're running a tiny team with not that many resources, not that much money, you've got to do something. So I raised up department heads and I put in place systems for them to start leading their departments. And that made all the difference because now the company can start running itself without me doing everything and without the previous general manager doing everything. And we put in place scorecards and example metrics for each one of these department heads. One of the important things here you see on the finance side is that EBITDA. I've talked to a lot of DCers who don't want to talk about profitability and cash generated with their team. I want my executive team to know exactly what I'm thinking. I want them to see what I see. And I need them to see the profitability of the business. There's a lot that I could say about this. That's part of the 2-hour talk that I don't have time for right now. So keep on going. And then finally, cascading goals. Second most important piece. Your job is setting the right goals that move the company forward and communicating them. Your success is based on the percentage of your team's goals that are accomplished. Your success is based on the percentage of your team's goals, not your goals, your team's goals that are accomplished. You're not doing the work, they're doing the work. It looks something like this for a football team. This is kind of a good analogy here. The objective for a football team, an NFL team, make money for the owners. What's the best way to do that? Win the Super Bowl and fill the stands to 88%. As a head coach, the objective is to win the Super Bowl. Key results, 200 yard per game passing game, third-ranked defense in the NFL, and a 25-yard punt return average. And then on the defense, less than 100 yard per game passing per game. So they can then take that down to individual people and say, your goal is to do this thing. And this is how you laser focus a business up, taking the goals all the way down to individual people and individual groups, and then driving the company towards success. At the company level, it looks something like this. This is a JMG sheet that I've been using. So the most important thing at the top, here's the list of key results that you need to do to get these things done. One owner, possibly a backup. The target for the quarter, and then whether you're on track, off track, not started, or completed. And every week, you've got to have the people go in and put the metrics in. When you meet, you only discuss off-track items. And you're going to assign tasks to each team member every single week for anything that's off track to get them back on track. The way the meeting goes is something like this. You're going to review last week's assignments. You're going to discuss weekly goals that are off track. You're going to have conversations on how to fix things, not just have a discussion about what's happening in the business. And then you're going to make assignments to team members to get things back on track. No talking about what's going on. We want to talk about what's not working. The conversation about what's not working is the most important thing. How to fix it, how to get these goals back on track. If you're not talking about that, you're doing it wrong. And you got to meet every week, every single week. How many people here meet weekly with their team? A lot. Do you talk about this kind of stuff? Not so many people. Okay, so now you know how to do it. If you want these spreadsheets, you want the access to my forecast, all of that, I have it for you in the resources. I'd love to know what you guys think about me as well. Thank you so much. I hope this was helpful, and I'll talk to you soon. Thank you.
Lisa, while I have in line,